A scattered dream that's like a far-off memory. A far-off memory that's like a scattered dream. I want to line the pieces up. Yours and mine.
When I first started this Kingdom Hearts Level 1 series, I really did not expect the amount of support I would end up getting, but once it did get that support, the prospect of finally getting the chance to take on Kingdom Hearts 2's hardest challenge has been something that I, as well as all of you, have been really looking forward to. Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and I really wanted to make sure that this video was as much of a labor of love as it was a challenge run. You see how long this video actually is? This took so much time, so much blood, sweat, and tears to get just right. I wanted this vid to be the best project I've personally created yet. It would really mean a lot if you guys could show your support, as it tells me that you want this series to continue. And in case some of you guys are wondering, yes, of course, I'm playing on critical mode, the hardest difficulty of the entire game. So, it's time. With all the formalities out the way, sit back, relax, and let me tell you guys how I beat Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix at level 1. To briefly explain what a level 1 run is for those unaware, in Kingdom Hearts there exists an ability called EXP 0, and equipping it means that I won't receive any EXP for defeating enemies throughout the entire game, meaning that I'll be playing the game at level 1. And along with the critical mode difficulty, this is easily the hardest way to play Kingdom Hearts 2. Although, I will say, Kingdom Hearts 2 is much more balanced for a level 1 run as opposed to Kingdom Hearts 1 for many reasons. For starters, Kingdom Hearts 2 not only gives you extra abilities for even playing at critical mode at all, but also that even though I'm not gaining any of the abilities that I would normally get from leveling up, I'll still be gaining access to new abilities simply by playing through the game, including combo modifiers, and most importantly, scan and guard. Whereas with Kingdom Hearts 1, these abilities were specifically linked to leveling up. This by itself makes Kingdom Hearts 2 far less taxing even at level 1 critical mode, simply off of the fact that I'll actually be able to see what HP enemies will be at all times, rather than simply having to guess on the fly. Although at the same time, the early game of Kingdom Hearts 2 is extremely rough, especially at level 1, mainly due to Sora's lack of mobility and combo modifiers at the beginning of the game. With all that being said though, before we can even equip EXP 0 in the first place, we have to get through a 2-hour-long tutorial with Roxas, where we face up with Cypher from Final Fantasy VIII, who is definitely voiced by Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World. In this quick little scuffle with Cypher, we have to pick between these 3 different struggle bats, each prioritizing a different stat in attack, defense, or magic. And picking any of them will increase that stat by about 1 point. I choose the attack-based struggle bat since in this game, as opposed to Kingdom Hearts 1, strength is much more important than magic. We beat Cypher, use the Keyblade for the first time to take out this nobody, and after doing some odd jobs, we finally end up in the Station of Serenity, where, much like in Kingdom Hearts 1, we have to choose between the staff, sword, and shield. I choose the sword to receive the power of the warrior, and after taking out some nobodies, we can finally equip EXP 0 and make our way towards the first real boss of the game, Twilight Thorn, who is really just the nobody version of Darkseid. Meaning that Twilight Thorn has never beaten me a single time in his life. Look at this loser falling on his neck and dying like an idiot. After beating Twilight Thorn and being rewarded with Guard, and after going through the struggle tournament, we face off with Axel, where Roxas says what every Kingdom Hearts player was thinking playing Dream Drop Distance, and after beating Axel, we're rewarded with Scan. Already we're off to a much better start than in Kingdom Hearts 1. After beating Axel, we face off with Setzer for bragging rights, and normally losing to Setzer actually rewards you with the better item. But that's how losers think. Hold this L, pussy. With the struggle tournament done and after searching for the 7 wonders of Twilight Town, it's time for the 6th and final day, where we make our way to the old mansion, fight off some nobodies, and are rewarded with one of the greatest cutscenes and moments in gaming history. And I'll let that speak for itself.
Simply amazing, Roxas.
Axel.
You really do remember me this time. I'm so flattered! But you're too late! make it all stop. Burn, baby!
Man, that part's always gonna release the dopamine out of me. I don't know about you, even if Axel saying 2 has been memed to death. But with Axel defeated, for now at least, unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye to Roxas and hello to Sora, as...
Looks like my summer vacation is over.
and the run can officially begin. Now that Sora's finally woken up from his nap, we can officially start our next journey. Everything I did as Roxas carries over to Sora, including my choices during the Station of Serenity, as well as any items I picked up before. For the sake of this run going forward, I'm not gonna really try and place too many restrictions on myself based on what Keyblades I can use, this, that, and the third. This is gonna be a more standard level 1 run, but in the future, I might do Kingdom Key level 1, maybe someplace else, I don't know. Before we can even start our next journey though, we need to acquire some new clothes because we simply can't go world hopping looking like this. Bro's clothes don't even fit him anymore. I would have thought this was a different guy in this game. After some admittedly very depressing scenes, we make our way to the mysterious tower where we encounter Pete, who's up to some mischief. Shout out to Sora for being proud that he's been catching bodies ever since he was 14 years old. That's my little murderer right there. After fighting off some Heartless, we make our way to the top of the tower. We meet Yen and Sid, and the 3 fairies grant Sora new drip. Thank you! And these new clothes have some added bonuses with the introduction of dry forms. These dry forms are essentially power-ups that Sora can access, and as the game progresses, Sora is able to obtain new dry forms with the exclusion of Valor form, which is granted to him the second he gets his new clothes in the first place. There are 5 dry forms in Kingdom Hearts 2. Valor form, Wisdom form, Limit form, which is exclusive to the final mixed version of the game, Master form, and Final form. This is of course not including Anti-form, which is his own beast entirely. Each dry form serves both niche uses and can be extremely powerful depending on which dry form you're using at a specific encounter. Leveling up these dry forms also gives Sora access to several growth abilities. For example, Valor form, which is a purely offensive based dry form, grants Sora high jump from leveling it up, and given Sora's lack of mobility in the early game, I'm going to be using Valor form a lot to level it up as fast as I can. There's a fun little strat in all of this where if you exit a world while still in a drive form, then return back to that world, your drive gauge will be completely replenished. I don't know how many of you actually know this, so for those that didn't, I thought I'd share that little tidbit of knowledge. With all of this out the way, and with Maleficent showing that she thrives off of pure negativity, we exit Twilight Town and make our way towards Hollow Bastion, meeting up with the Final Fantasy crew and learning our first spell in Blizzard from Merlin. We make our way towards the Bailey and meet up with Squall, where we have to deal with some nobodies, introducing some new variants like the Samurai Nobody, and we learn Fire from this battle. Afterwards, we encounter Organization 13 and set the stage for the conflict between us and them for the rest of the game. Also, this next moment between the members of the organization is quite literally just how guys talk to each other. I'm not even lying to you. This is how it be during those late night hours in the Discord call.
When was the last time any one of us felt anything?
Truer words were never spoken.
After exiting from Hollow Bastion, 3 new worlds open up to us: the Land of Dragons, Beast Castle, and Olympus Coliseum. Much like in Kingdom Hearts 1, you can visit these worlds in any order you choose, so I head to the Land of Dragons first, where we encounter Mulan and Mushu, and head to enlist in Captain Shang's army, where Sora just gets his shit rocked. I don't know why. This is hilarious every time. From here, we have to do a couple of missions. I hate these Heartless so much. And eventually we make our way through the mountain pass into the village, and after fighting some more Heartless in this cave, we get Slide Dash for our troubles, which is one of the best moves Sora can learn, especially considering that we are in the early game. Afterwards, we head to the top of the mountain, with Captain Shang realizing that he was in love with a chick the entire time, and with Shan Yu heading towards the Imperial City, Mulan finally takes off her disguise and gains access to her full kit as a party member, including our first limit of the game. Limits are especially powerful in this game. Not only just because of the invincibility frames they grant, but also how many limits in the game hold extremely powerful uses. One thing of note, however, is that you always want to take off auto limit, so that you can still gain access to any reaction commands within your vicinity without accidentally activating your limit and losing all your MP. With all this being said, after making our way towards the Imperial Palace, we face off with Shan Yu. Shan Yu isn't really a hard fight at all, just really annoying, mainly because, once again, we're still in the early game. I hate this bird, and I hate these Heartless just as much as I did before. Shan Yu himself isn't actually hard. He only really has like 2 real moves, including this slash, where if you block it, you enter into a reaction command with him, as well as this move where he slashes up into the air, which is also guardable and can lead to a punish. This is actually one of the first fights in the game where Mickey becomes available to play as. See, at certain boss fights during the game, if you die, instead of the regular death screen popping up, a special screen will appear, meaning that you can play as Mickey. But with all that being said, I don't really use Mickey at all in this run because Mickey tends to trivialize a lot of fights in this game with how powerful he can be, and for the most part, I really wanted to learn a lot of these fights for myself. With all that being said, once you know what to look out for, this fight isn't really hard, just annoying like I said before, and once he starts to get low, he envelops himself in darkness and gains super armor, and has this new move to his arsenal where he lunges at you, but you can guard it much like his slash attack from earlier on, entering into the reaction command, and this super armored state only lasts for a couple of seconds, so all you really need to do is just wait it out. With all this being said, we get the W on him and learn aerial sweep as a reward, and with Mulan being heralded as a hero of China, and Captain Shang realizing he may just be straight after all, we take our leave from the Land of Dragons, with our next stop being Beast's Castle. Because Beast is getting completely gaslit and manipulated by Zaldin, Belle tasks us with rescuing Beast's servants from the castle dungeon. Far be it from me to refuse whenever a bad bitch tells me to do anything. We head to the dungeon and defeat the Possessor and Thresholder Heartless. Really just be sure you watch out for the Hook Bats and Gargoyle Knights that spawn, as well as when the twin Heartless themselves attack, and you should be fine. We free the servants, make our way towards Beast's room and help him get back to his senses, and then we head to the ballroom where we have to deal with the Shadow Stalker. This is honestly the easiest boss fight in the entire game, I'm so serious. For starters, the Shadow Stalker will enter into the wall, but running completely off to the side will help you avoid the attacks it throws at you. Following this, it then goes into the chandelier, but much like the attack from before, literally just standing off to the side will help you avoid its attacks. Once the Shadow Stalker retreats after you finally get some hits in, he tries to attack you from underneath, but you can easily jump over that. And after that, he enters into the spire surrounding the arena, but this attack is easily avoidable as well. Rinse and repeat this cycle a couple times and the Shadow Stalker is defeated. Very easy fight. However, this was only the first phase of this fight, because afterwards, the Shadow Stalker then enters into its true unbound state, Dark Thorn, which is actually a little bit more challenging, especially at level 1, but I'm able to get the win by using a lot of limits, as well as the Step Vault reaction command, which becomes available once you do a certain amount of damage on the Dark Thorn, where Sora actually uses the chandelier itself to turn Dark Thor visible again. God, Sora is just so cool. But yeah, this isn't too challenging, but it's still at least a little bit more challenging than the fight before. We take our leave from Beast's Castle, but not before getting cure for all of our troubles, easily one of the best pickups we can get at this point. But before we can continue onwards, we take a quick, albeit forced, detour back to Hollow Bastion, where we're introduced to the 100-Acre Wood, as well as getting our first summon of the game in Chicken Little from Merlin. And after this quick detour, we can round off this portion of worlds during this part of the game with the Olympus Coliseum. In the Olympus Coliseum, Meg tasks us with going to talk to Hades to chill up on Hercules, and once again, far be it from me to refuse whenever a bad bitch tells me to do anything. And to be honest with you, the Olympus Coliseum includes some of the hardest fights in the early game, especially for a level 1 run, more specifically, the Hades escape. Once we make our way towards Hades' lair, Hades ends up summoning Orin of all characters to go fight Hercules. I love Final Fantasy X. Orin, save me! Man, play the line.
I am the Lord of the Dead!
No wonder no one wants to die.
God, he is just so cool! Final Fantasy X gushing aside, the Hades escape is extremely tough for one specific reason: the Lancer soldiers. Lancer soldiers are easily the most dangerous Heartless that we can encounter during the early game of a level 1 run, as they can almost certainly one-shot me if not put me close to death. This is all while Hades is pursuing you and you can't really do anything to him given that he's the Lord of the Dead and the underworld is his domain. We can't even use our drive forms at this point. This is where reaction commands and Orange Limit Bushido come in handy, along with the fact that you can stall for MP as you're waiting for it to regenerate. Funnily enough, I know that I did say earlier you need to unequip auto limit when you can, but yeah, because I died so much, I ended up winning on a run where I didn't actually unequip auto limit. Shows what I know. But yeah, after some attempts, I get lucky and finish the Hades escape. Get me out of here! Now, before I continue on with the story of this world, see this book right here? Yeah, don't worry about it for now. We'll come back to this much later. As we make for the exit to the underworld, we end up having to face Cerberus, which we beat him pretty easily, and we head to Olympus Coliseum proper this time, get aerial dive after doing some training, and after Hades kidnaps Meg, we head back into the underworld and encounter Demyx for the first time, who pulls us into a battle with him. This first encounter is really just about destroying his water clones. Just strike them and they turn into these notes, which allows you to do a reaction command to attract a group of notes for some fire spam, and on his way out, he drops the Olympus Stone, allowing us to use our drive forms even in the depths of the underworld. This next section where we have to protect Meg from Pete can be pretty challenging, especially at level 1. Mainly because you have to deal with managing protecting Meg along with fighting the Heartless, but Pete himself isn't too challenging. The second phase though is where this fight can really get challenging, though Hercules comes to help us out. I too would do anything if it meant looking good in front of the hoes. But yeah, don't be surprised if you die a lot, mainly because of these stupid ghosts, but the general premise of this part is about the same as before, just you have a time limit to worry about. But we get it done and get Trinity limit for our troubles. Now it's time to
Get up on the Hydra's back!
alright Phil,
Get up on the Hydra's back!
alright Phil, I get it bro, damn. Yeah, what he said. Yeah, we gotta get up on the Hydra's back because now we are fighting the Hydra. And all you really have to do during this fight is attack its head as you look out for its explosions, darkness balls, as well as when it swings its tail. Once you get one health bar done, the Hydra stakes its neck into the ground, meaning it's time to
Get up on the Hydra's back!
Thank you, Phil. We use this reaction command to stun the Hydra's 3 additional heads sticking from the ground, we vanquish the 3 heads, and then the Hydra sticks its head out back from the ground as it now has 7 heads. This phase is where the Pegasus Run reaction command becomes available, allowing me to get solid damage in on the Hydra, and after doing it a couple times, we vanquish the Hydra and unlock Thunder, as well as the Hero's Crest Keyblade, easily the best Keyblade I could use going forward until the mid-game, due to its high strength and its ability to increase aerial combo damage. Although Herc's depressed about his worth as a hero, our journey continues onward as we head to Disney Castle, talk to Minnie, lead her to the Hall of the Cornerstone, and after speaking with Merlin, it's time to head for the Timeless River, where we take out the Heartless inside these doors. I hate hot rods! Stop Pete from stealing the Cornerstone of Light, unlocking Comet for Donald, and deal with Pete proper. Pete is virtually the exact same as he was back in the Olympus Coliseum, only in this fight he'll switch the backdrop of the arena to the 4 doors we fought each of the Heartless in, but besides that it's nothing too challenging at all. And after beating him, we get the single best spell in the entire game, Reflect. Let's go! I used to pray for times like this. We also unlock Wisdom Form from completing Disney Castle, our second drive form of the game. Unlike Valor Form, which is a purely offensive-based drive form, Wisdom is a magic-based drive form, and by leveling it up via defeating Heartless, I'm able to learn Quick Run, a sort of dash that has many uses, both as a quick getaway tool and as a way to get some invincibility frames. After completing Disney Castle, 5 new worlds open up to us: Port Royal, Atlantica, Agrabah, Halloween Town, and the Pride Lands. With regards to Atlantica, unlike Kingdom Hearts 1 where I simply could not be asked to do it, there's some pretty important pickups that we can get from it in this game. Also the fact that it's literally just a singing world, so not much effort needs to be put in at all to do it. So I have to take care of Atlantica much later in this run, as you'll see, and in the case of the Pride Lands, there's really not much there I found worthy of note in terms of specific strategies, mainly because Sora turns into a lion and all you really need to know is air combo square go burr. With all this out the way, our next world is Port Royal, where after taking on some cursed pirates, make sure you equip Blizzard for the duration of this world because that's what the pirates are weak to, we meet Captain Jack Sparrow, who truly is voiced by James Arnold Taylor in this game. And we head to Isla de Muerte to find Elizabeth. We head there and unfortunately we have to retreat back to the Interceptor and we kind of just leave Jack to die. Like, damn, that's just like that? That's kind of fucked up. But yeah, we protect the cursed medallion from the pirates, acquiring aerial spiral in the process, another air combo modifier, and after protecting the Interceptor from Heartless and exploding barrels, we head back to Isla de Muerte with Goofy learning second chance in the process. Here, we face off with Barbossa and the Illuminator Heartless, with Jack having been cursed by the medallions. This isn't a tough fight, at least for me, like at all. For starters, killing the Illuminator is extremely easy. All you have to do is look for his glowing eyes. Afterwards, you deal with Barbossa, and just like all the cursed pirates before him, he's weak to Blizzard, and doing so will stun him for a couple seconds. You can pretty easily loop him by trapping him into this corner and using Blizzard whenever he gets unfrozen. Once I run out of MP, I pop Wisdom Form and barrage him with a series of attacks and blizzards, finishing Barbossa off and getting rewarded with Aerial Finish for all of our efforts. I decided to take on Agrippa next, and after meeting up with Aladdin and making it through the Cave of Wonders in an attempt to buy off Jafar's lamp, we deal with a series of Heartless and make our way back towards the castle gates, where we have to deal with the Blizzard Lord and Volcanic Lord, and dealing with them isn't challenging at all despite the fact that it's two bosses, and all you really need to do is look out for when the two proc their own respective reaction commands, and the fight goes by really quickly. This is a very fast world, actually. Getting through this boss fight nets us finishing Leap, as well as acquiring Genie as our next summon. He's back, baby! With Agrippa done, we make our way over to Halloween Town, where Jack clearly did not get the memo about the world he's from. Brother thinks he's on the team trying to celebrate Christmas instead of Halloween. But anyway, we head on over to Christmas Town to meet up with Santa Claus. Fun fact about this world, diving into this portal to Christmas Town is the only time in the series where you can hear Goofy do his iconic yell. Look. I mainly just threw this in because I think it's really funny. This is the single time that this happens. Anyway, after making it to Christmas Town, we head on over to Santa's house, where we see Locke, Shock, and Barrel having broken into Santa's workshop. We give chase, and after a scene of Maleficent reviving Oogie Boogie, we make our way over to the Curly Hill, where we enter into a fight with the Prison Keeper. At the start of this fight, the Prison Keeper will take one of the three kids into its stomach and has a unique skill set for each. For Barrel, the Prison Keeper will chomp at you, which you can easily block, which leaves it at a disadvantage. For Shop, the Prison Keeper will shoot little balls of darkness in all directions, which can be avoided by climbing the Curly Hill itself. And for Lock, the Prison Keeper will toss fireballs, which are also guardable and will leave the Prison Keeper stunned as well. In between all of this, once the Prison Keeper tries to eat another one of the kids, you can proc the React command Inside Combo to stop it and get some free damage. Towards the end of the fight, the Prison Keeper will consume all three kids and gain access to all of its previous moves at once, but it's not too much to worry about. After beating the Prison Keeper and getting Flash Step in return for our troubles, another amazing move that Sora can learn, we see a scene of Oogie Boogie kidnapping Santa, and we head back to Christmas Town to deal with Oogie Boogie one last time. Now, to be honest with you, this fight with Oogie Boogie is really just fucking boring and takes way too long. The gimmick of this fight is that you have to hit these presents into Oogie Boogie, dropping him onto the conveyor belt for damage, all while avoiding this giant fist because it can and will one-shot you at level 1. Afterwards, he'll start spawning gifts that contain Heartless, lasers, but this is pretty avoidable by jumping into the different lanes of the machine. With all that being said, we beat Oogie Boogie, very stylishly, might I add, with Goofy learning once more, and with Jack still not understanding he's quite literally a fucking walking skeleton, my guy. You're not fooling anybody. We leave Halloween Town and learn the final main spell of the game, Magnet. We head back on over to Twilight Town and head on over to the Sandlot where we encounter Sayax and take out some nobodies. Completing this visit to Twilight Town not only grants us the Oathkeeper Keyblade, but also Limit Form, a dry form exclusive to the final mix version of the game, like I mentioned way back at the beginning of the video. Limit Form is probably the most nuanced dry form in the entire game for many reasons. The gist of this form is that it takes Sora back to Kingdom Hearts 1, and I mean that literally because he not only gains access to many of his previous combo finishers, such as Zansetsuken for example, but he also gains access to his special moves that he learned from the previous game, including Sonic Blade, Ars Arcanum, Strike Raid, and Ragnarok. Leveling up Limit Form is one of the most important things you can do in this game, just in general, mainly because of the fact that this form grants us Dodge Roll. Yes, The quintessential dodge roll, the move that literally got me out of various situations in my Kingdom Hearts 1 level 1 run and in my recon video, was a Final Mix exclusive growth ability in this game. God, I tear my hair out over it every time I think about this. Now, before continuing on with the next major part of the story, there's one quick thing I need to mention. Now that we have Limit Form, we can head on over back to the Cave of Wonders in Agrabah, and as we head into the treasure room, you'll notice this large mushroom wearing a coat similar to what Organization 13 wears. This is one of the Mushroom 13, a special group of Heartless that are meant to replicate the real Organization 13. I won't actually be doing every single mushroom in this run, but the reason I mention this at all is that this specific mushroom in Agrabah is the best spot in the game to grind levels for not just dry forms like Valor or Limit Form, but also summon levels as well. I just wanted to put this into perspective. But anyway, now that we've got every major world in Kingdom Hearts 2 done, we're officially in the mid-game. Yeah, 20 plus minutes and we're only in the mid-game of Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, you knew how long this video was gonna be when you signed up to watch it. You're being indoctrinated into my legion as we speak. You're too deep to stop watching now. But yeah, now that we're in the mid-game, we head back on over to Hollow Bastion, and after fanboying over Cloud, God, Advent Children Cloud is just so cool! From here, we head on over to the castle, and after some more FF7 gooning, God, Tifa, please, give me one chance, ma'am. I love you. We end up in the Space Paranoids, but only really to do this quick minigame before we get bounced out. We grab Stitch as our third summon, easily the best summon in the entire game, and we get the funniest cutscene in the entire franchise. I mean, come on, of course I was gonna put this in here.
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
Yeah, that scene gets me every single time. Jokes aside, from here we learn the password to the door to darkness, and Mixie gives us our next drive form, Master Form. And leveling this form up through collecting drive orbs rewards us with the aerial dodge growth ability, which is basically just a double jump, but it has many uses both for traversal and as a means for invincibility frames. We head back into the Space Paranoids where we have to do the light cycle. And, fuck, bro, this part is ass. Like, usually I kind of enjoy this part casually, but at level 1, this shit is dog. But yeah, we complete the light cycle. I have no advice here, just get lucky, my guy. We restore Tron's functions, making him a fully fledged party member, and afterwards we head on over to the I.O. Tower and deal with the hostile program. Tron's limit is king here for collecting clusters, which in turn will allow Sora to freeze the hostile program and get some free damage. This boss is honestly trivialized thanks to Tron's limit and how much damage it actually does. Beating the hostile program will reward us with Vicinity Break, a really good crowd control modifier to Sora's combos. And after this, we head back into the real world as we fight some nobodies and head outside. And God, this game just has the funniest scenes sometimes. Like, look at this shit, man. Who said Kingdom Hearts isn't good? Like, bro, how can you hate this? Now, before we leave and head on over to the Bailey, which is where we're needed next, you'll probably notice this giant hole in the side of the castle. Don't worry about it for now. We'll come back to it later. But for now, we make our way over to the Bailey, and God, Cloud and Squall are just so cool, man. I love Final Fantasy. Once we get to the Bailey, we face off with Demyx, our first true fight with an organization member in the game. Not counting Roxas fighting Axel, of course. Now after really learning this fight at level 1, I can genuinely say that this has become one of the most fun fights in the game for me, at least mechanically. To start the fight, Demyx will summon about 50 water clones that you need to defeat in about 40 seconds, but this isn't really hard through the use of reaction commands. Once this wave of water clones is gone, Demyx will become vulnerable. Typically, I like to end my combos with fire on him since it usually forces him to do this move where he spawns some pillars of water around him rather than triggering his revenge value, and this gives me the opportunity to get away from him. Demyx has a pretty good range of attacks. Typically, he'll leap around with streaks of water behind him and summon some pillars of water around him afterwards like earlier. He also has this move where he shoots some water bubbles at you, but as long as you move to the side, you can get a punish on him. He has another variation of this move where he summons some water notes and then shoots the bubbles at you, but you can use the iframes from the notes to stun him. He can also call water bubbles to rain down on you from above, but this is easily dodgeable through the use of Quick Run. This is of course not forgetting his reaction command he can do, where he moves towards you and by doing Show Stealer, Sora will knock him up into the air, which can net you a full combo. Fun fact about this, did y'all know there's actually another animation for when you hit him and don't actually press the reaction command button? I don't know why this is so cool to me because I literally didn't know this was a thing until I did this fight at level 1. But I think the reason that this is the first time I'm actually seeing this is because I'm the only person in existence who's actually gotten killed by Show Stealer, so After getting through phase 1 of Demyx's fight pretty easily through the use of fire and not triggering his revenge value, at around 2 HP bars left, he'll move into phase 2, signaled by him doing Dance Water Dance again, but only summons like 10 water clones, nothing major there. In phase 2, he introduces 4 new moves, one of which is him summoning a wall of water in front of him about 4 times, where he follows it up with a stream of water, and he'll most likely do this 2 times. This is easily reflectable, though it can be pretty scary. He also has another move based around his water bubbles, but he hits you with them with his sitar more directly, but you can dodge roll through this. And finally, he has his combo where he swings his sitar in the air as pillars of water appear between both Sora and himself, but once you block it, because of the way iframes work in this game, you actually have a lot of time to react to the final portion of this combo where he'll create an explosion of water, and this is easily dodgeable via dodge roll. My tactics during the first phase of this fight relatively stay the same, by making sure not to trigger his revenge value and looking out for his combo, and towards the end I pop Limit Form and use Ars Arcanum to get some really good burst damage on him without triggering his revenge value. This is one of the many merits of Limit Form, the ability to keep bosses from triggering their revenge value as well as getting very sizable damage. And once I block Demyx's combo one more time, we eke out a W, getting an upgrade to Blizzard, and Demyx is no more, and this was after a no-hit run too. I'm just like that. After this though, Goofy just fucking dies, and we get to go through arguably the coolest section of the entire game, where we play alongside the Final Fantasy characters including Yuffie, Squall, Tifa, and Cloud. Now many of you may not know this, but if you die here, you actually have to fight Demyx again. Now, as much as I would love to say that I beat this first try, I didn't. I'm sorry, I really wanted to prove I'm that guy, but I'm not that guy, as it were. But can you even blame me? I hate morning stars. But yeah, this part is very hard, mainly towards the last portions featuring Tifa and Cloud, since the first 2 parts with Yuffie and Squall are very easy. I would honestly say that Tifa's part is the hardest, mainly due to the amount of morning stars that there are. The difference between Tifa and Cloud's portions though is that Cloud is just a monster, so at the very least, he can clutch up and put me in the backpack if needed. So in order to deal with Tifa's part, I mainly head all the way to the edge of the arena so that I have a better time seeing what could be coming at me and then pop Limit Form to keep myself safe. And for Cloud, I just spam limits and wait for when he goes into Omni Slash mode and we're out of here. There's a reason you're my favorite Final Fantasy character, Cloud. With the Final Fantasy section done and Goofy actually being alive, wow, I wonder who could have seen that coming. It's time for the Battle of 1000 Heartless. This is probably the hardest moment of this Hollow Bastion section at level 1, for the simple reason that, of course, there's a fucking 1,000 of them. I mean, what did you think the reason was? The only real advice I can kind of give you to get through this at level 1 is to find this Heartless that lets you shoot this big laser and just kind of go from there. I mean, there's really not many other ways to beat this fight at level 1. There's fucking 1,000 of them. Completing the Battle of 1000 Heartless nets me Guard Break, one of, if not the best combo finisher that Sora can get. And with this fight done, Sora taps back into his chasing bag and Saïx is just a dickhead. Like, why are you like this? Why did you make Sora get on his knees if you weren't going to take him to where Kairi was anyway? But yeah, with the battle for Hollow Bastion done, at this point in the game, every world now consists of a second visit. You can tackle these second visits in any order that you really want. So I decided to head back to the Land of Dragons, and after catching sight of a potential organization member seen heading towards the mountain, we quickly face off with this mysterious man. Ooh, I wonder who this could be. His sword sure does look familiar. Ooh. Jokes aside, this boss is really weird, mainly because he doesn't get staggered, like, at all. But using Reflect along with the Speed Chaser reaction command from the Heartless surrounding you is all you really need to be done with this encounter. You don't even have to win. Afterwards, we head back to the Imperial Palace, and after fighting off some nobodies and encountering Xigbar, we face off with the Storm Rider. There's a reason this place is called the Land of Dragons. I mean, what did you think was gonna happen? The Storm Rider is actually really easy. All you have to do is destroy his little spikes to knock him down, and he'll usually get back up after like 2 combos. From here, he'll shoot little lightning streaks at you, which you can easily guard. He'll drop bombs on you, but you can easily avoid them using the nearby wind. He'll also signal for Sora to do the Vertigo Toss reaction command, and if you're fast enough, You can get off a quick reflect and do the reaction command at the same time, which adds up for some really good damage. And once he gets low, he'll get in the center of the arena and shoot a beam of lightning, but all you need to do is stand off to the side and avoid these little lightning streaks. And after some back and forth, we beat him, giving us an upgrade to Thunder, and shoutouts to the Emperor of China for being a really good wingman. And with all that, the Land of Dragons is officially done. Now before I take on Beast's Castle, I head on over to Port Royal instead. This might seem a little strange, but you'll understand why I did this in just a second. Once we head back to Port Royal, we encounter Luke's sword. Yeah, that's actually how you say his name. They never actually say his name until Kingdom Hearts 3. I know all of you were just as weirded out as me. But yeah, after Luke's sword summons the Grim Reaper and we easily beat it, we get rewarded with Horizontal Slash. This is the reason that I came here in the first place, because without question this is easily Sora's best air combo modifier by far. And it is definitely required not only for the rest of the game, but for a certain somebody coming up, as you'll soon see. But for now, we need to find the rest of the cursed medallions, and we pick up Peter Pan as our last summon of the game. After finding the rest of the cursed medallions, we face off with the Grim Reaper Heartless again, amped up by the curse of the medallions. This is a really easy fight like the previous Grim Reaper, only here the gimmick is that you need to return all the coins to this chest, and doing so will make the Grim Reaper vulnerable. I didn't mention it previously since the first Grim Reaper is one of the easiest fights of the entire game, but the Grim Reaper is weak to Blizzard, just like Barbossa and the rest of the cursed pirates, and the same goes for in the second fight. Once he gets low, he'll DM, but standing off in this corner will grant you protection, and by beating it we get an upgrade to Magnet, Donald gets Duck Flare, and we're on our way. I hope Jack gets to wield the Keyblade someday. With this trip to Port Royal done, I feel much more confident in tackling Beast's Castle, which is where I head next, meaning that this is where we square off with our next member of the organization, Xaldin. Xaldin is without a doubt the hardest boss of Kingdom Hearts 2's mid-game, especially at level 1. Nigh unreactable attacks, a barrier that can damn near one-shot if not just kill you entirely if you get too close or if he gets near you, attacks that will one-shot you, he's got the entire package. He'll always start the fight by calling upon his barrier to protect him. He'll typically try to stab you, but you can easily guard it, which will dispel his barrier, allowing you to get hits in. I opt not to use the jump reaction command here, mainly because I like doing Horizontal Slash on him more, and I felt the damage was a bit better at this point in the run. You can actually skip phase 2 and go straight to phase 3 by simply not finishing any of your combos completely, and you can loop him, as this will force him into a situation where he will be coded into continually doing his stab attack over and over and over, rinse and repeat, and you can get to phase 3 pretty easily. Once he puts his barrier back up though, this is the signal that he's entered phase 3, which is by far the scariest phase of this fight given how random he can be here. Xaldin will teleport at you and you must aerial dodge out of the way since his barrier will instantly one-shot you. Once he teleports the first time, he will instantly DM, using his lances to do a series of attacks and then joining them together to become like a fucking spear dragon or something and shoot this gust of wind. God, how extra could you be? Once he does this gust of wind, I immediately reflect in order to protect myself. You can probably dodge roll here, but I suck, so I opt to do the safe route here, and afterwards he'll pop his barrier and teleport again, and usually once he teleports once, his barrier will automatically dispel itself, and at some point he'll stab at you. This is why I hate this part, it's so random when he does it. Now, in hindsight, Magnet is actually useful here, but at the time, I didn't think to use it, ironically enough. But once I can actually get hits on him though, I make sure not to trigger revenge value, since once he recovers, he will most likely always DM, and I repeat this process a numerous amount of times, making sure not to get hit a single time as he shifts towards me, and we get the win, getting a no damage run in the process, and we earn a much needed upgrade to Reflect, and Beast's Castle is done. Oh yeah, baby! After this, we head on back over to the Olympus Coliseum where we participate in the Hades Cup and have to go free Auron from Hades' control. And at this point, I don't know whether Square and Nomura just wanted to make Kingdom Hearts 2 canon to Final Fantasy X and the Summoner's Journey, but like, that's literally what this part is. Like, these are lines from Auron's backstory during Final Fantasy X, just food for thought. But with that done, we head on back and deal with Hades. Shoutouts to Herc doing what I would personally do upon seeing any woman get tossed into a netherworldly portal. I hate it when girls die. Although we can't do any damage to Hades since, once again, we're in the underworld and this is his domain, once Herc comes back and gets over his depression, we can fight Hades proper thanks to Herc's help and his Aura Sphere reaction command. All you have to do is look out for Hades' fireballs and when he signals that he's about to become invincible, and then use Aura Sphere to make him vulnerable. And beating him gives us the Magnet Burst finisher, a really strong finisher for when you're surrounded by a group of enemies, along with the Guardian Soul Keyblade. And we set off from Olympus Coliseum. With 4 second visits done, our journey takes us back to Agrabah, where we have to deal with Genie Jafar. This is probably one of the worst fights in the entire game. Genie Jafar sucks. Just in general, not even at level 1. For starters, not only does he try to attack you before you can even move, but his attacks have this really weird lingering hitbox that can just as easily one-shot you. And if you don't skip his DM, which I almost did like twice, god damn it, why do I suck? You have to deal with his magic. He really must have took what I said about him not having any long-range moves to heart, because Jesus Christ, this is toxic. But yeah, just attack his stomach so he can lower his head, do a couple of horizontal slashes on his head, and then use the reaction command on his tail, and honestly just kinda hope for the best. That's really all I got here. Beating Genie Jafar grants us our last fire upgrade, as well as the Wishing Lamp Keyblade, one of the best Keyblades for grinding both money and drive orbs for Master Form as well. Finally, we have Halloween Town on our list, and this is a visit I have been anticipating for the whole game, and if you know, you know. But anyway, we find out that some of Santa's presents have gone missing, and after beating up on Lock, Shock, and Barrel, again, yeah, this ain't Kingdom Hearts 1, you little fucks, we end up having to fight the Professor's Experiment, which isn't too bad of a fight. When the fight starts, you can dodge his attack where he pounds into the ground and start attacking him instantly with horizontal slashes. Note of advice, never do a combo finisher since it will cause the experiment to split, which makes the first phase a lot worse, in my opinion. Once you get 2 health bars down, the experiment will automatically split, and you'll have to redirect his spinning head back into himself, which will cause him to reform. From here, just look out for when he tries to thrust at you, along as when he uses his head to shoot laser beams, and the fight isn't anything too challenging. And as Jack finally gets his wish in delivering Christmas presents, we get rewarded with the best Keyblade in the entire game, the Decisive Pumpkin. This Keyblade is so good for every reason imaginable. This Keyblade doesn't only have good stats, but its ability leads to a strong finishing blow depending on the amount of hits performed during a combo, which is just amazing, especially at level 1. Quick side note, I do end up doing the Pride Land second visit, mainly because beating the Pride Land second visit nets us our final Thunder upgrade, and much like with Scar in the first Pride Lands visit, air combo square goes burr. Like what, did you expect any different? With that little detour taken care of, we head back to Hollow Bastion, where we enter the Space Paranoids again, as Sid and the gang hope to upload a special program to help us eliminate the Master Control program. We head to the I.O. Tower while the gang uploads the program. God, why does Aerith sound like this? And after using the lift, learning Explosion in the process, the last combo finisher that Sora can learn, we arrive at the Central Computer Core, where we face off with Sark as well as the Master Control program. You'll immediately face Sark by himself first, which literally isn't hard at all. But afterwards, the Master Control program will empower Sark and you'll have to fight both at the same time. Defeating Sark is never too hard, just attack both his legs as well as his head and reflect whenever he does the shockwave move to expedite the process. After defeating Sark, you'll have to break these shields in order to deal actual damage to the Master Control program, backing off as it prepares to fire lasers at you. The Master Control program will repair Sark and you'll have to repeat the process, but as the fight progresses, Sark will spawn this wall, allowing you to trigger the reaction command High Climb and Needle Dive, which will just instantly kill Sark. Like, bro, this reaction command goes so hard, Sora just literally goes through his skull. This fight is honestly just a test of patience, as you don't really do that much damage to the Master Control program per burst, but eventually I do beat him and we get the final upgrade to Reflect, giving me Reflega. We're so back! As Tron lunges off the edge of the room, similar to how I am at all times, please help, I am suffering out here. This means that every second visit is done. Before heading over to Twilight Town, which is where we need to go for the story to progress, I take care of both Atlantica and the 100 Acre Wood, with Atlantica giving me the final Blizzard upgrade as well as the Mysterious Abyss Keyblade, which doesn't have any uses at all, and with the 100 Acre Wood, I get the final upgrade Secure, and fully completing both of these worlds will give you some of the last Orichalcum pluses that you'll need in order to craft the ultimate weapon. Every other world is now done. We head on back over to Twilight Town, make our way to the old mansion where we fight off some nobodies with Mickey, And as we head into the old mansion, pick up the ultimate recipe from the basement and head into the Day of Twilight Town, we'll fight up some more nobodies with Axel in between, getting Slapshot as a reward. This is also the final combo modifier that Sora can get in the game. And with Axel's sacrifice, he paves the way for us to move forward as we acquire the Bond of Flame Keyblade and make our way to the final world of the game, the world that never was. Immediately upon entering the world that never was, we enter into a fight with a certain familiar presence.
Huh? A Keyblade?
Completely exclusive to Final Mix for reasons I still cannot comprehend even to this day, Roxas is one of the most emotionally potent and challenging bosses of the entire base game. To many people, he's acted as their wall that has stood in the way between them and the organization's complete demise, and for good reason. There's a lot of nuance to this fight with how Roxas functions mechanically, so I'll try my best to explain this as best as I can. At the start of the fight, Roxas will immediately assume a stance and unleash a whirlwind around himself. Block it or reflect it, it's really your choice. For the most part, I choose to reflect here since after doing a full combo, then doing one hit into Thundaga triggers his revenge value, and by doing a reflect and retaliation, I'm able to get good damage on him. He also has this string of attacks that are really simple to block, you just have to be ready for when he does it, and he can also leap into the air and attack you as well, but you can either guard or reflect just like his whirlwind stance. At close to 3 health bars left, Roxas will DM where he summons multiple pillars of light and sends multiple waves of light orbs your way. The best way to dodge this at this point in the game is to use aerial dodge. In phase 2, Roxas retains all of his same moves, only now they're accompanied by multiple pillars of light. When he assumes his whirlwind stance, I use reflect and do the same thing I did before with doing a full combo. However, I opt not to use Thundaga so as not to trigger his revenge value, since at lower HP bars, Roxas has moves that are basically just unblockable, so it's best not to put him in a situation where he'll do that in the first place. When he tries to do his combo on me, I immediately quick run in order to avoid his light pillars, and then block his final hit and then dodge roll into him and pop Limit Form. Up to this point, I haven't had many opportunities to show the full capabilities of Limit Form, so I'm glad I get to here. What I do here next is pretty advanced, so pay close attention. For starters, I immediately pop an Ether and then enter into Ars Arcanum. You're probably questioning why I popped an Ether here, but the answer to that is pretty simple. By popping an Ether and then immediately using Ars Arcanum, the MP that I would have lost from Ars gets immediately restored from the Ether, meaning that instead of only 2 Ars Arcanums, I now have access to 3. I stop Ars after the second to last hit so as not to trigger his revenge value, then do 4 hits and immediately enter Rs again, stopping after the second to last hit like before. Finally, I do 1 hit into Rs and then finish off Roxas, earning Combo Master in the process. Now normally, I would simply just continue on with the events of the run, but we're already pretty deep, so if you guys could allow it for just 1 second, can I really just talk about how great this fight is? I mean, the backdrop of the fight being the dive to the heart, the other promise playing in the background, Roxas's mechanical depth really lending itself to his characterization and strength, along with Roxas's dialogue to Sora in the aftermath and him testing Sora inside of themselves to see if Sora was truly worthy of existing instead of him. It really contributes a lot to the tragic nature of Roxas's character and his fleeting existence. This isn't even mentioning the metaphysical heart-to-heart that Roxas has with Axel, the idea that maybe nobodies do have hearts after all, and Roxas entrusting everything to Sora, having fully accepting Sora as his other. It's the ultimate moment of man versus self and really reinforces why I love these games so much and why I continue to push forward with these at times almost unreasonable challenges. TLDR, I suppose, this moment is always really moving to get to every single time I play this game, and is one of my favorite boss fights and moments of the entire series. Still don't understand why this was just a cutscene in the original game though, but we have a run to get back to, so with Roxas defeated, we earn ourselves the 2 Become 1 Keyblade. This Keyblade in particular has a very special ability. This Keyblade can either force Sora into Anti-Form or unlock the final dry form in the game, Final Form. Final Form gives Sora access to the Glide ability, and with Final Form unlocked, we can finally level up every drive form to their max level. You know what that means, baby! Montage! Let's go! With that quick montage done, and now that I have all of my drive forms at max level, as well as every growth ability unlocked at maxed, before continuing on with the world that never was, I decided to take a quick detour and handle that book from all the way at the beginning of the video. If you remember, way back during our first visit to the Olympus Coliseum, we encountered this strange gateway. This is called an absent silhouette, and these absent silhouettes are essentially just boss fights featuring all the organization members that died during Rechain of Memories, including Zexion, Vexen, Lexaeus, Larxene, and Marluxia. I decided to take on Zexion first since he has the least amount of health bars out of all the absent silhouettes. His gimmick for this fight is that he traps your party members in his books, so I break them out of the books in order to enter Final Form, and use Firaga to get him down to his last health bar. This is one of the many strengths of Final Form, the ability to loop Firaga on certain bosses and enemies without triggering revenge value, given the way that Final Form Firaga works, due to the fact that his Keyblades actually reset enemy revenge value because of the fact that they hit the enemy during the Firaga. Unfortunately, since I don't really have the strength to kill him at this point, Zexion forces us into his DM, which is actually really easy to deal with. Once he pulls you into his book world, he'll send you to a screen with 3 red lights as his book moves between each of the lights, and you'll have to predict which light the book will eventually land on by the end of it, granting you protection from a collection of meteors he rains on you. The way to predict this though is simple, because the book will always move 13 times, representative of Organization 13, with the 13th time always being where the book will land and where you'll receive protection from the meteors. So really just count to 13 every time you get to the screen and you should be fine. And once I get out the book, I repeat this process a couple of times and finish off Zexion. Really easy fight by this point in the game. The next absent silhouette is Vexen, who has a couple of interesting little quirks to him, but is honestly just as easy as Zexion was, if not easier. At the start of the fight, he puts this ring around Sora, which he uses to gather data on him, and can summon anti-Sora if he gathers enough data. Fortunately, I never gave him the chance to, because once I break his shield and avoid his ice snowflakes, I pop Final Form and use Firaga to completely shred his health, because in this game, he's actually weak to fire. I remember what y'all said in the recon video, baby. Hold this, you're not getting a chance to breathe. Woo! With 2 absent silhouette fights done, our next fight is against Lexaeus. Like I mentioned during the recon video, Lexaeus is basically the equivalent to a Super Saiyan, and I mean that literally because just like Broly in the Tenkaichi games, Lexaeus has super armor, but the way this fight is built around it is so well done. Once the fight begins, Lexaeus will immediately power up. You'll notice the power level bar at the top of the screen. The power level that Lexaeus has at any given time represents not only the amount of damage his attacks can do, but the properties that they have, and this number can only increase as the fight progresses. After Lexaeus powers up, he'll do a slash, and blocking it can lead into a reaction command, and by reflecting and doing a quick hit and following up into the reaction command, I get some really good damage here. Once you hit his revenge value, he'll attack you from above, but you can easily dodge roll through this or reflect again. He'll typically pound the ground 3 times, spawning some rocks from the ground, but doing a reflect followed by a hit into another reflect, etc. is enough to take down 2 HP bars already. After 2 HP bars worth of damage are done to him, he'll power up again, and he'll gain a new move where he runs at you and tries to hit Sora with a command grab. But doing a well-timed reflect will grant Sora invincibility frames, and you can do a full combo finisher on him in the process. Afterwards, this fight becomes the same as the first phase where I reflect as rocks as I get good damage on him, and after 3 HP bars are done to him, he'll power up one more time, and afterwards, he'll DM, where he jumps outside the arena and then comes crashing down as pillars of rock respawn from the earth. The way that I defend against this is by guarding the first hit and then using glide to hover over the rocks so that nothing will hit me. Afterwards, he'll do that same slash from the beginning of the fight that'll lead into the RC, but from here I immediately go into limit form, pop an ether, and then go right into R, stopping after the second to last hit, then do 3 regular hits and go into Rs again, and then finally I do a full combo into Rs, and Lexaeus is done. 2 more absent silhouettes to go. The next absent silhouette I decided to take on is Marluxia, the final boss of Sora's story and Reach Into Memories and the former lord of Castle Oblivion. You're probably wondering why I didn't just decide to leave him for last, but there's a reason for that. At the start of this fight, Marluxia will whisper sweet nothings into Sora's ear. At least, that's what I'm assuming. We never actually hear what he's saying to him, but yeah. See this big number over Sora's head? This number represents my own respective level, which is, of course, 1. Now, for those unaware, the reason why this is important is because in this game, the way this fight works is that whenever Marluxia hits you with his sight, the number over your head goes down, and once it reaches 0, you die. But because I'm at level 1, I kinda have to play this fight pretty perfectly because if I get hit by either his scythe or by anything else, the fight is just over. With all that aside, Marluxia will open the fight swinging his sight, but blocking these swings and using counter guard for iframes will render him vulnerable, and once you hit his revenge value, Marluxia will teleport and slash you, but you can easily dodge roll through this. And afterwards, Marluxia will twirl his scythe over his head as he gets ready to hit you with his tornado slash move, but I guard this and then use reflect in between iframes to damage him as I then use the reaction command aerial strike. Marluxia actually has 2 reaction commands you can perform from this, but aerial strike is the one that does actual damage while the other one only works to restore your counter, but as you can see, I have no actual count to restore. But yeah, I repeat this process a couple of times until I do about 5 health bars worth of damage, to which Marluxia will attempt to teleport in the middle of the arena to try to generate these 3 red circles that will cover most of the field. But by doing a well-timed fire, I'm able to hit Marluxia before he can even do this. And I repeat this process, getting good damage on him until he reaches 5 HP bars remaining, where he'll introduce his 2 DMs, Super Bloom Shark, yes, that's the actual name, I'm not kidding, look it up, and Final Judgment. With regards to Super Bloom Shark, Marluxia will sink into the ground as he spins his scythe vertically. But I deal with this by guarding whenever he specifically tries to attack me, since when doing this move, he won't immediately try to hit you out the gate, and since he only tries to attack you directly 3 times with this move, during the remainder of this, he'll always move away from you, which I read and punish him for it. And in the case of Final Judgment, his more common DM between the two, Marluxia will begin to levitate as he teleports behind you, and these little explosions will come from the ground around 15 times, but to avoid this, I simply just run in a circle in the middle of the arena. But eventually Marluxia will toss his scythe at Sora, which I reflect about 4 times to keep myself safe and get some good damage on him afterwards. At this point in the fight, this is really just about playing the waiting game with him, but after some back and forth, we finish off Castle Oblivion's former lord. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned though is the fact that all of these absent silhouettes give you something. More specifically, they give you recipes that allow you to craft essentially their own respective weapons, whether it be in the form of accessories or what have you, and even though none of these are really useful during a level 1 run, the exception to this is Marluxia's. Marluxia's recipe allows me to craft the full bloom accessory, the best strength-based accessory in the game, not even just at level 1, just in general, especially when upgraded into full bloom plus. This is a huge pickup that I can get. With all that aside, we have one last absent silhouette, Larxene. If you want to know the reason why I saved her for last, she is the reason. She is a menace, without question the hardest of all the absent silhouette fights. Insane speed, damage, and not to mention that she literally summons clones of herself that you have to look out for. This isn't like Demyx type water clones. There are literally 2 Larxenes on the screen that you have to watch out for. This fight is very intense. With all that being said though, I'm more than equipped to handle this at this point. At the start of the fight, Larxene will power up as she and her clone dash across the screen, but you can easily dodge roll through that. The trick to this fight was sort of to play the waiting game, at least for me. See, Larxene will signal when she's going to attack you as soon as she sort of disappears, and she can either attack you on the ground or attack you from the air. But in general, I use this opportunity to get close on the other one, since you can get double the damage on both Larxenes by using Reflect along with any additional area of effect attacks. At about 3.5 health bars, I opt to do a finisher on Larxene and her clone, proccing the merge reaction command, which is exactly as it sounds. You merge both Larxenes together. And from here I pop Final Form and do 2 rounds of Firagas, making sure not to do any finishers, and once I run low on MP, I pop an Ether, do a Reflect in reaction to Larxene's revenge value, into another Firaga, revert back to base Sora, and now it's time for her DM. Once she appears in the middle of the arena, Larxene will power up as she produces a large beam of lightning as she spins around. Typically once she does the beam, a streak of lightning will typically come down on you from above, so I dodge roll this and then glide through the rest of her DM, and aerial dodge her as she and her clones try to dash across the screen again. Finally, I do a series of reflects as Larxene and her clones just try to jump me, please help! I do a finisher, proccing merge, and as I merge Larxene with her clone, I do one more set of combo finishers to close out the fight. Every single absent silhouette is done. I know that was a pretty sizable detour, but now that we've got all of that out the way, we can officially proceed onwards with the world that never was. As we continue through the world that never was and enter into the castle and Diz reveals his true identity to Mickey as Ansem the Wise, we make our way to the Hall of Empty Melodies and enter into a fight with the sharpshooter Xigbar. God, the gauntlet really just doesn't end. But funnily enough, despite being the organization's sharpshooter, Xigbar definitely needs to install aimbot for his guns because dog, look at this, he literally cannot hit me from here. But yeah, jokes aside, Xigbar isn't actually hard, just kinda weird. At the start of the fight, Xigbar will teleport to a vantage point and shoot at you, but you can easily quick run away from this until he gives you the chance to do the break reaction command, where Sora will show off just his casual ability to teleport as he hits a bullet back into Xigbar's scope 3 times. From here, Xigbar will teleport back to the arena and the fight will actually begin. The majority of this fight you'll spend guarding his shots back into him, and after about 3 times, he'll take the time to reload. After the 3rd time, you can do a reflect and then use aerial dive immediately afterwards to hit him as the full damage from the reflect will move with Sora as he attacks. I make sure not to do a second combo finisher in order not to trigger his revenge value, and from here, the fight is really just this for the most part. At times, Xigbar will shift the backdrop of the arena to 3 different backdrops, whichever of the 3 he takes you to is mostly random, but I find the completely linear backdrop the best one since it gives you a lot of time to reflect his shots from afar. Once he enters into phase 2, he'll switch up the patterns with which he shoots, implementing an overhead into his kit, as well as this big blue laser you can reflect as he shoots it in order to get rid of it entirely. But with around 2 HP bars remaining, Xigbar will DM with his ultimate shot. The signal for this is when he shifts the backdrop to a small square and then starts glowing blue. First he'll do a complete spin, but you can aerial dodge over this, but from here he'll do a series of shots as he circles the arena, but the best way to dodge this is to sort of just follow him as he does it. Finally he'll appear above Sora and bullets will come from all directions, but the best way to dodge this, at least for me, is to circle the arena similar to what I did with Marluxia earlier. Up until doing this run, I don't think I've ever dodged this perfectly, so actually getting a chance to do it here was a really cool moment for me. Anyway, afterwards, Xigbar will become vulnerable, and here's where I completely overpower him. After about 4 horizontal slashes, I pop Final Form. And like with Limit Form, I'm about to do something that's pretty advanced and actually really hard, so watch very closely. Here, I do a hit into Firaga, then do another hit into Firaga, and then Sora will automatically do a finisher. Then I do 2 Firagas, with me doing the second one close to the round, so that Sora will land and it will reset Sora's combo. I immediately attack again, repeating this hit into Firaga process, only here, by the second hit, I do 2 Firagas after the hit, to which Sora will do his first finisher. I pop Firaga again, and finish Xigbar off with a no-hit run to boot. This is why Final Form is truly so powerful. With Xigbar defeated and as we continue through the world that never was, we finally meet up with both Kairi and Riku. Man, the both metaphorical and quite literal battle within yourself really took its toll on you, huh? Because man, damn. Riku is 16 years old over here, but looks like a grown-ass man. This is dire. But Riku is still Riku, so no matter what, that's still our guy. And at the end of the day, we've still got 3 organization members left to take care of. There's no time to waste. Our next fight is against Luxord, and really, I don't like this fight with Luxord in this game, mainly for the reason that he turns you into a dice to start the fight. And throughout the game, I've been trying my best to almost no-hit every single organization member that I could, but to be honest with you, unless you want me to spend another like 3 hours learning proper dice movement, you're out of luck here. Besides that though, the main gimmick of this fight is that instead of having a traditional health bar, Luxord has the time gauge and will signal for Sora to enter into a reaction command with him, where you need to pick a no out of a series of X's which will win you the minigame and drain his time. Once you've gained a sizable chunk of his time, Luxord will enter into another game, one where makes you find him among a series of cards 3 times, but this is really easy since you can just cheat. This is so funny to me because you know damn well Square thought that no one would just use the camera. After this, the fight becomes pretty standard, with Luxord just jumping around as he summons cards, with me avoiding the cards and damaging him until his gauge gets super low, where he enters into his DM. Here he'll attack you 2 times, which you can easily guard, and from here you can actually use the terrain to glide super high and avoid the rest of his DM, until he pulls you into his final game, where you have to get 4 O's in a row as the time with which you have to react to getting an O becomes faster and faster with each correct answer. But if you find yourself having a hard time or just really want to move on, you can pause buffer on the final input until it becomes an O. I know some of you are really groaning or rolling your eyes at this, but don't get mad at me. I know some of you looking at me right now did the same things that I'm doing right now. You cannot hide your true nature from me. I know what you are. And of course, there's no way we could go this long without Sora thinking he's in an edit. I mean, you all knew this was coming eventually. We can't stick around for too long though, because now we have to square off with the Luna Divider and Xemnas' right-hand man, Sayax. This fight is designed much better than Luxord, mainly because we're back to a straight-up fight from here, and I don't get turned into a dice at the start of the fight. At the start of the fight, Sayax will become empowered by the moon as he enters into his berserk state, and he'll do a series of attacks which you can dodge. What you need to do is pick up his claymore that he throws at you and use the reaction command to hit him out of his berserk state. Once he's back to normal, I do about 2 to 3 Blizzagas to force him to lunge at me, and by using counter guard, I can make him vulnerable. You can actually loop him here, since by doing 2 combo finishers, his revenge value will be triggered, and once he hits the ground, he will lunge at you again. But just like before, guarding and using counter guard is enough to make him vulnerable, rinse and repeat. Once his berserk meter fills back up, the same logic as before applies, only here, he'll add in some new moves where he does a much longer series of attacks, along with this move where he leaps into the air and throws his claymore directly below him. Besides that though, the gimmick here remains the same, as well as what I do afterwards, and once he gets low I pop a limit form and do a series of Ars Arcanums to finish off Sayax for good. As we continue onwards, and as Ansem the Wise almost booms himself by trying to encode Xemnas' artificial Kingdom Hearts into data, it completely purifies Riku's soul, restoring his body to its former appearance, and as he casts off his black coat for good, Riku, now at the height of his E-boy powers, has officially joined the party. This fit is really just peak 2000s E-boy fashion though, like Riku is really wearing 2 sleeveless vests, with one of them exposing his belly button along with a studded belt. You know, it's time to say what we've all been thinking. Take it away, David.
He's just a sexy guy.
All that aside though, Riku is without question the greatest party member in all of Kingdom Hearts. Not only does he make for great support through his cure potion ability, making him easily the most reliable healer, but he also synergizes so well with Sora. It's a shame he only becomes a party member this late into the game, but with the amount of stuff he can actually do, it makes sense. Riku goes crazy. Determined to make our last stand with Organization 13's leader, we head on over to the Altar of Naught, where Xemnas pulls us into this illusionary dimension for a battle. Now, if you listen closely to the music that's playing, for those of you that have played the series, or for those of you that watched the Kingdom Hearts 1 video, this is the same music that plays for the unknown boss fight, meaning that, of course, the person that we fought way back in Kingdom Hearts 1 in Hollow Bastion was actually Xemnas. And I don't know, there's just something about this fact that makes fighting him here feel kinda surreal, since before, Sora wasn't strong enough at the time to completely defeat Xemnas, and wasn't really aware of the true goings-on of stuff behind the scenes. Enough about that though, we got a fight to get back to. At the start of the fight, Xemnas will envelop Sora in the power of nothingness. Yes, that's just what Xemnas does, he literally just wields nothingness. But from here, Xemnas will climb to the top of Memory's skyscraper, and the only way to get rid of this is to face off with Xemnas. And this moment has 3 separate reaction commands you can trigger here. with Clash, Breakthrough, and Finish, the latter being the optimal one to trigger since it does about 1.5 bars of Xemnas' health, as Sora just beats his ass. Look at my boy go! From here, the fight is based around watching when Xemnas does these 2 hits with his lightsabers, blocking the first hit and then using counter guard during the second for iframes and to make him vulnerable. And at times, he'll pull out his wall as well as this ballerina move, but his ballerina move isn't only just slow, but has like no range, so as long as you create any sort of distance, you'll be okay. But besides that, this fight is really straightforward, especially towards the end where he pulls Sora in to do the same reaction command against him like from the beginning of the fight. And after climbing Memory Skyscraper and beating Xemnas' ass again, this fight with him is done. However, this isn't the end of the organization's leader, not even close. Because from here he retreats inside of his Kingdom Hearts, and as the world spawned a new doorway for us to take the fight to him, the stage is set for our final battle. And from here, with only Xemnas remaining, nothing can stop him.
I wonder if it won't change its mind once I defeat you.
Sephiroth, much like in Kingdom Hearts 1, is a secret boss that you can take on towards the end of the game. Much like Kingdom Hearts 1, he's one of the hardest bosses of the entire game, and there are many differences between that fight in Kingdom Hearts 1 to this one here. Sora's added mobility along with the way that combat works in this game to the increased arena size for this fight, and you have a fight that is in some ways easier than the fight in Kingdom Hearts 1. However, make no mistake, Sephiroth is lethal in this game, especially at level 1. At the start of the fight, he'll open with a slash that you can block via a reaction command, and this is something that he can do at times during the fight, but you can just as easily dodge roll through it. There's honestly not much reason to dodge roll here, at least with what I know about this fight. I just think it's really cool. The brunt of this fight for the most part is him doing this combo, which you can either guard or reflect, and if you choose to guard, using counter guard at any time will disrupt his combo, allowing you to get hits in. If you choose to reflect him, then by doing reflect 3 times followed by a combo finisher, then it makes for really good damage. And to be honest, I make use of both, reflect to sort of speed this fight up, and guard for the remainder of the fight. At times, Sephiroth will randomly teleport as he does a slash, which you can easily dodge roll through that. He also has his Firaga wall as well, but like, he rarely does it, at least for me. So unless you're like really unlucky with the RNG, you might never see this move, I don't know, maybe until like 3rd phase? That's the most likely time for him to do it. For this fight, I opt to take off Guard Break and solely use Explosion as my only combo finisher so as not to proc his revenge value. The reason why I do this is because for the most part, when his revenge value isn't triggered, Sephiroth will continually do his combo attack and you can loop him by only doing Explosion, and by repeating this process, I'm able to get him to phase 2, which he automatically enters after depleting 5 health bars. In phase 2, Sephiroth will summon the same orbs that he had in his last phase in Kingdom Hearts 1, but they're much more manageable now through the use of Reflect. He also reintroduces Heartless Angel, but unlike in Kingdom Hearts 1 where he's at ground level, Sephiroth will fly into the air as he does it, and this is why we level up those growth abilities, because it makes dealing with Heartless Angel extremely easy. Besides these moves though, the fight is still relatively the same as it was during phase 1, as I use guard and counter guard on him during his combo in order to get damage, making sure to look out for whenever he teleports to do his slash, which he can do up to 2 times as well. And then about 4 HP bars left, Sephiroth will power up and enter into phase 3, and much like in Kingdom Hearts 1, it's his most erratic phase. In phase 3, Sephiroth will summon more orbs than he did before, but this is nothing to worry about. The real worry comes when he does his combo, which is sped up dramatically from in phase 1. What I mean by that is that when he does his combo, Sephiroth could be across the screen and he'll just instantly be there when he does his combo. It's that fast. I'm gonna be honest with you, I still do not know how to accurately time my block, so I just opt to reflect and keep myself safe. A much easier move to deal with though is when he moves at a high speed to try to do 1 slash at you, but a well-timed reflect along with a combo is enough to deal with him. Outside of this, if he gets to a point where he'll DM, he'll hail down a series of meteors from above, but by doing a series of aerial dodges you can easily avoid this. But during my winning run, I legit didn't see this move, but I thought it was worthy to include. In phase 3, I make sure to stay attentive to whenever Sephiroth starts to move towards me, reflecting as he does and making sure to get my damage in when I can, and once he gets low, and after seizing an opening, I use Limit Form to finish Sephiroth off. And after Cloud and Sephiroth fight it out with each other, man, I love FF7! Shoutouts to this fight being continued in Smash Brothers. That's my headcanon for where they went. I mean, do you know where they went? I sure as hell don't. But anyway, with this little side quest done, we get the Fenrir Keyblade for all of our efforts, and now we can actually complete the story. For real this time. We move forward through the door to the final battle of Kingdom Hearts 2 story, where we're greeted with a fight to the death. Armored Xemnas is the last boss of this section of the game, and this version of the fight can honestly be pretty scary given that he has full access to the entire organization's arsenal of attacks. Axel's Chakram, Zaldan's spears, Luxort's cards, Zigbar's guns, Demex's water clones, you name it. Fortunately, once you get past that, this fight is actually really simple, because besides him using the organization's weapons to attack you, Armored Xemnas himself only really has 2 moves in his bag. He has this slash attack which you can easily dodge roll through, along with his wall from the original fight. And with this in mind, I take advantage of whatever openings he gives me via his slash attack, getting some combos, then moves away when he moves his hand, since that's his signal for when he uses the organization members' moves. And once he gets low on HP, I pop a quick session with Riku, and Armored Xemnas is finished. But this isn't even close to the end, because even with Armored Xemnas done, it's up to Sora and Riku by themselves to finish off Xemnas for good. Starting with us facing off against a nobody dragon. To this day, I don't know what this is, I don't know why Xemnas have it, but it sure is fucking cool. Also, how does Riku even know how to fly this thing? He really does have that certified him energy, no wonder he's my favorite character. Now I'm gonna be honest with you here, there's no real advice that I can give here in terms of what to look out for. The most I could really say is to use the glider's drain ability to absorb the enemy shots being sent at you, use Mega Laser when you need to, try your best to dodge the Nobody Dragon's lasers, and just kind of hope for the best. This part of the game really does depend a lot on how lucky you get, especially considering the fact that you can't heal at all. But thankfully, I was able to get this on my first try, meaning it's now time for Armored Xemnas 2. Which is honestly nowhere near as scary as the first fight with Armored Xemnas, mainly because of the fact that he no longer has access to any of the organization's arsenal anymore, meaning that he himself only has access to his slash attack, which is easily dodgeable like before, but you can also use Reflect in combination with a good combo from Sora to get invincibility frames and some really high burst damage. He also has his wall again, which if you know that it's coming and take a couple steps back, use your Flega and go back on the offensive, it does just as much damage. At 2 health bars left, Armored Xemnas will automatically send you flying backwards, and the Nobody Dragon will put up its shield as it sends lasers your way. And your goal here is to find a building as it spawns in and use the reaction command to send a building with Riku on it, hurling back at the Nobody Dragon and taking down the shield in the process. Once the shield is down, the dragon will spawn 3 more sets of blue lasers, but just completely falling downwards will allow you to avoid getting hit by them entirely. Once you get Armored Xemnas down to 1.5 health bars, he'll send you flying like he did previously, with the only difference here is that he'll spawn in 3 sets of blue lasers immediately, which you can fall to avoid them like before, send another building hurling towards the dragon as Riku breaks the shield, and the fight is over and done with.
from the realm of light. I will not allow it to end this way. Not yet. If light and darkness are eternal, then surely we nothings must be the same. Eternal.
You're right. Light and darkness are eternal. Nothing probably goes on forever too. But guess what, Xemnas?
That doesn't mean you're eternal.
No more eternal than that radiance of yours. Anger and hate are supreme.
Final Xemnas is the last boss of Kingdom Hearts 2's story, and arguably the best final boss in the series' history. The emotional weight going into this, Sora and Riku teaming up together, the atmosphere of being just in the void, everything about this fight is perfect. Xemnas kicks off this fight with "We shall go together," where he sends you into the air to do a series of reaction commands as you dodge his attacks. The thing about this part though, is that you can easily take off 2 health bars from him by mixing in a series of reflects as you use the reversal command to dodge. To break this down, once he sends you into the air, I immediately use Reflect and then do the reversal reaction command. The damage from Reflect will register on Xemnas, and I repeat this process until about the 4th or 5th series of attacks from him, where I simply just do the reaction command and then set up another Reflect and continue the original strategy until Xemnas brings Sora and Riku in to do the block reaction command, and is about exactly what it sounds like. The last part of this is the most important part, since there are times where Xemnas won't have you do the block reaction command depending on how you approach this part, and at times can just straight up kill you. So in order to initiate the block command during the 7th and 8th set of attacks, I delay doing the reaction command after the reflect. Once this part is over, the fight can actually start. Xemnas has many attacks, with the main 3 being his vines, his electric balls, along with his physical attacks. Usually when Xemnas teleports, that's the signal for when he's going to physically attack you, and by getting close you can manipulate Xemnas to retaliate with his vines or his electric balls. What he follows up with typically depends on what RNG you get during the fight, but for the most part he will retaliate with his vines, which can easily one-shot you at level 1 if you aren't ready for it. In regards to his vines, you can dodge roll through them to get a punish, and with his electric balls you can get a lot of damage in on him by using a reflect and then using the invincibility frames of the reflect to attack Xemnas, reflect again, and then do a good combo finisher on him. This one interaction can do an entire health bar's worth of damage in on Xemnas. Funnily enough, although I did say that Xemnas typically retaliates with his vines, it's his RNG being set to follow up with his electric balls most of the time that actually helped me get the W on him during my winning attempt, since this allowed me to get Xemnas to about 3.5 health bars, which in turn causes Xemnas to do "We shall go together" again, and after repeating the same process from the beginning of the fight, by the time this is over, Xemnas ends up having close to 1 health bar left, meaning it's time for phase 2. During phase 2, or what I like to call the laser phase, Xemnas will set up a series of lasers, starting with a ring of lasers around Sora. After this, he'll do 4 sets of 3 lasers, and by reflecting them, I'm able to damage Xemnas once he comes back to set up more due to the lingering damage done by reflecting. After these 4 lasers, he'll do another laser ring around Sora. After guarding this, I immediately pop session with Riku for some invincibility frames during this next section with Xemnas firing lasers with his clone. During normal runs where Xemnas doesn't prioritize using his electric balls, I use Session mainly as a way to avoid his attack "Can You Spare a Heart?", where he traps Sora, forcing you to play as Riku to save him while Xemnas periodically damages Sora. This is probably the worst attack to get hit by at this level, but because of Xemnas' RNG during my winning attempt, I was able to get him to an HP range where I didn't have to worry about him doing this move at all, since using the finisher on Session at this point put Xemnas into his last HP bar, forcing him to DM. And from here, I'll let this part speak for itself. And with the organization's leader finally defeated, this run can come to a close. Wait, hold on. I'm getting like a phone call or something? What the? Hello? What do you mean I forgot something? Alright, now you're just talking crazy. What did I miss? I literally did everything. You'll probably notice this giant hole in the side of the castle. Don't worry about it for now. We'll come back to it later. God damn. The Cavern of Remembrance, a Final Mix exclusive area that is easily the hardest regular area of the game. The Cavern of Remembrance has many scripted fights, featuring some of the most difficult regular enemies to deal with in the entire game. This is also where you can get the final synthesis items needed to craft the ultimate weapon, which I do end up doing. Everything that you go through and everything that you face in the Cavern of Remembrance culminates in the Transport to Remembrance, a series of some of the hardest mob fights of the entire series, and getting through this will allow you to reach the Garden of Assemblage, which in turn will allow you to face the Data Organization, a collection of boss fights featuring Organization 13 that are much harder, have more HP, deal more damage, and have some different patterns to them. However, this is where things are gonna diverge from my original plans. Originally, I wanted to include the entire Data Organization in a singular video, like you guys asked. But then I actually looked at how long this video is actually going on for, and to be honest, even though the Data Organization is much harder than the base game's Organization 13, unlike Kingdom Hearts 3, where the Data Organization versus the story fights are literally just drastically different fights, outside of like 1 or 2 more moves, nothing is really that different in this version of the Data Organization 13. So here's where I'm going to set a goal here. This isn't even coming from a form of laziness or me not wanting to do the Data Organization. I already did them. I have the footage. It's just, I don't know if I want to stuff everything into what could be a 2-hour-long video, and I don't know if you guys would really want that. So here's the sort of proposal that I'm going to ask if you guys are even still watching at this point. I'm going to sort of monitor how this video does, and if this video does really well, which I'm hoping that it does, if it doesn't, you'll literally find me on the morning news, I'll do a sort of one-off video featuring the Data Organization 13. Now, you're probably wondering why I even bothered to mention the Cavern of Remembrance or the Data Organization at all, if I could have simply just ended the video after Final Xemnas. Well, there is one thing in the post-game that I did want to include in this video, and I think all of you know just what that is. The Lingering Will, a Final Mix exclusive boss fight, and easily the hardest boss fight in the entirety of Kingdom Hearts 2. I could say many things about this boss fight. I could say how Keyblade Glider Phase is the worst possible start you can get. I could talk about how getting punched at the beginning of the fight is quite literally just an instant death. I could talk about his lasers. I could talk about his DM. I could talk about Rising Sun. I could talk about how fast his attacks are. I could talk about literally anything and everything about this fight, you name it. But that's not how I want this to go. As we've gone on this journey, you and I together, there are many things that I've remembered about myself, and this boss being the reason that I could even consider myself halfway decent at Kingdom Hearts is one of them. So really, instead of just explaining what he does and building to my inevitable victory, I'll allow you guys to simply just watch and observe for yourselves. And with that taken care of, let's go back to where this video was supposed to end. And let's do it right this time. I love Kingdom Hearts 2. It's a pretty shocking statement, right? No one could have ever guessed that, but in all seriousness, no, I truly do love this game and this franchise just as a whole. This is a franchise that has stuck with me through the years, and I can only hope that it will continue to stick with me through many more. When I first started this series, I thought it would go under the radar, unnoticed, just another unwanted project, but the fact of the matter is it's not an unwanted project, and it's something that you guys wanted to see. For all of you that watched towards the end, and even those that didn't watch the entire video, and even if you only watched just a portion of it, truly from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank any and all support that this video will hopefully receive. And it shows that this project, this tremendous undertaking, wasn't for nothing. I may not be the best Kingdom Hearts player, I may not be the most knowledgeable, far from it, but at the very least, I can say that I beat Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix at level 1. And trust me when I tell you, there isn't a feeling better than that.